Whenever you're dealing with these older antique firearms, no matter who you're buying them from or where you see advertisements for them, there's always the warning: have your gun checked by a competent gunsmith before firing. And in general, I've only, in all the years I've traded in military surplus guns, I've only found one or two out of the hundreds that have passed through my hands that were bad. I had a Turkish Mauser that the headspace was way off on it, and there was another gun. It was a trapdoor that somebody used it as a drill rifle and must have dropped it, and the muzzle was bent, and they tried to cover. You could barely see it, but what would happen is if you pushed a gauge pin, it would lock up in the last eighth inch of the bore. The end of the muzzle was damaged, and if you didn't pay attention or know that, if you tried to fire it, it could, constrict a bullet enough to where there would have been a problem. So, this gun was built 1873, this one 1875. And in all those years, God only knows where they've been, what's happened to them, or what someone has done to them. I bought this gun years ago. Okay, like 5-6 years ago. I bought it a long time ago. And as you've seen in the other video, I got the dies finally, got some ammo made. I was going to go out and shoot them. So what I did when I finished reloading the ammo was I went and tested them, to see if they fit in the chamber without binding, instead of going all the way to the range and finding out the ammunition doesn't fit. So this one here, which this one is a converted chassis. This has 1866-74 on it, and it was converted over. But it has matching serial numbers, and even though it's not in pristine shape, it is in better shape than the other gun, somewhat. And the bolt matches the barrel serial number. So I loaded some in there. They went in there fairly snug, tight, so great. So I went to take the other gun, and I said, all right, let's try it in the other one. And I noticed something, and also I was fooling around with the extractors trying to see if I can get one of these extractors to fit in the cadet rifle, which I got. And so I was looking at it, and I don't know if you can see, but I can move the bolt head on that pretty freely with the cartridge in there, nevertheless by itself. So now it comes back. Okay, how do we check the headspace on the gun to see if there's a problem? Now generally you can get headspace gauges, and I've accumulated them. There's a good set of 3 of them depending on the caliber. Like for the 223 or the AR-15s, they're not that expensive because they sell a lot of them. I had a set made for Carcano, 6.5 Carcano. The reason is I had a lot of 6.5 Carcano guns, and I wanted to double check the headspace. Cost me a little over $100 for the 3 gauges, go, no go, and field. And they had a custom order. The gauge guy didn't have them on the shelf. So I had to wait like 8 months or something. I already bought and sold guns without headspace in them, but I have them now. So when you go to a gunsmith, depending on what he's doing, and they warn you with these older guns, a lot of gunsmiths, they're doing business, with people with more modern firearms. There are some specialists, like when you go to a lot of meets for or rendezvous for the old primitive camps and that, or Revolutionary War stuff, there will be black powder gunsmiths that specialize in the repro muskets and that. And these are people like your frizzen on your flintlock musket. If the frizzen gets soft or has a problem or is misshapen, there's guys that'll go, heat it up, soften it, reshape your frizzen, get it upright, and then harden it right there, in a tent somewhere and get the gun back going again. There are people that specialize in older firearms, but like most gunsmiths, probably won't have gauges for 7.7 Jap, even though they're available, or the 6.5 Carcano, because probably the rarity that they work on the weapon coming through their shop doesn't warrant, spending $100 for something you might use once and then never again. So it can be difficult. And basically the thing you should do is, if you collect like what I do, is I get my own gauges and I do all my own checking myself. And that's why, like I said, the gauge pin set, you run a gauge pin down, look for tight spots in the bore or some kind of damage. I found a lot of trapdoors, and I had to go borrow the pins from work because they were over a ½ inch in the 50s, 70s. I found where there were problems in the bore, and these older guns sometimes do have that, tight spots or damage. But I also have a camera, that bore camera from Lyman, and generally that'll get, if you can get from one side to the other, you can cover just about any one of these guns, and then go in there with that little camera and eyeball the stuff. That's well worth it too. So now, what do? How do we headspace? Now we have to understand how the weapon works also. These Gras rifles, the 1871 Mausers, all these guns are bolt action guns with no locking lugs. Okay, there's no lugs on that bolt. So where you lock up is you have one lockup point, and where it is where that bolt comes into the receiver. That's your locking lug, a single one. That's it. That's what locks this weapon. That's all. So when you take the bolt apart, the head moves. And I'll get one of these out here. So, this is the point where my finger is, the back of this bolt, and the distance here. Okay, that's where this has to lock up so far. And this is a rimmed cartridge. So unlike a bottleneck shoulder cartridge, this is rimmed. And how it would headspace is from the face of the bolt to the back of the barrel, where the case goes. See, I got one. In other words, this distance here. So if you had a shorter case, say this case was short by 1/8 of an inch, you're really not head spacing off the shoulder. You're more or less head spacing off the rim and that distance there. The distance of the rim in the back. So, it's got some spring to it. That's how it goes on the bolt. Now the headspace, a gun like this, or a 303 British, or a Mosin Nagant, the headspace gauges are not the long plugs that go to the shoulder, because these are rimmed cartridges. The other cases are rimless, and they headspace off of where the shoulder of the case intersects in the chamber, and then where it ends up in the back end. That's what you measure on a more modern style gun. So where do you get headspace gauges to check this, or even get an idea? Well, as going by, they tell you that the rim thickness from the base of the case, and it's a rebated rim, to where the rim ends on the inside, is 75 thousandths. And for some reason, somewhere I must have absorbed it. I guess the maximum you could go, which would be 5B80, is 90 thousandths would be the maximum distance from the face of the bolt to the inside of the chamber where the rim intersects. So I made some impromptu headspace gauges. And basically what they are, they're little rims. I had the rebated ends to match up, and I got them in a couple different thicknesses because all it is like a little washer. In other words, I copied how that brass was with that rebated rim. And I just made these two little spacers up as like a makeshift headspace gauge. Now, I know they're supposed to be ground and higher than that, but I'm just trying to get a quick measurement. So what I did is one of these, the thickness, I'll check it so make sure I ain't lying, please. One of these, the thickness came out at 75 thousandths. Okay, is what Cartridges of the World lists the distance from the base of the case, the back of the case, to the inside of the rim. And I also had several other documents that showed me that. That will fit in all the guns, okay? So now, this one I made was thicker. And this distance comes out to 95 thousandths. So that should be well beyond what, say 90 thousandths or 85 thousandths. I know I should have made another one in between, but I broke some tools on the lathe. I had to replace them. Part off tool snapped on me. So this is the gun and the bolt. And what I do is put my little makeshift headspace gauge in there and see if I can close the bolt, which it kind of goes in but does not close. So that would be your no-go gauge. Okay, so I made a makeshift no-go gauge. And in the one rifle, it does not go. Alright. Save some time to get the other one over here. Okay, now in the rifle where we believe we have a problem with the replaced bolt. It goes up, it locks easily, and there is still motion in the bolt head. So the headspace on this gun is way off. Okay. And what the problem is this bolt is not matched. And what happened is the gun is in fairly decent shape, but somebody probably had a rifle without a bolt and went and whipped together a bolt, which the back and front end of the bolt match up, but the head obviously looks in worse condition than the rest of the bolt and is loose and beat up and probably come off of some gun that was ready for the scrapyard. And again, when I measured it, I measured the distance of the head itself, and it's off about 30 thousandths difference. Now, if I take the bolt out of this gun, put it in that one, it locks up good. If I take the bolt head off of that gun and put it on this bolt, it locks up pretty tight, actually a little too tight. So, what do we do now? There's two things. I was thinking of making a hardened shim to shim it up to 30 thousandths, but it better be hard and correct, because if that shattered while firing, or compressed or whatever, I tried to order another bolt head, is what I did, because this one obviously is worn out and not in good condition. So I kind of got burned. I bought the rifle, and like I said, I've had it for a while, and I never did quite look at it. I mean, I slugged the bore and looked at it. Never did take the bolt all apart to clean it either. And what somebody must have done is either they did not have a bolt at all and assembled the parts from several different guns, and then put this on there. But that is why the dealers tell you they do not warranty or guarantee that these guns are safe to fire. This one was not, and trying to get it checked correctly is not that easy. If I brought this in a local gunsmith, he might not even know what it is. So, like I said, two things to do: make a 30,000 shim. It may work, and you'd have to make it out of tool steel, machine it, polish it up nice, and harden it to about 62 Rockwell. And then that would push the bolt up, and fill that loose gap in there. That would be one thing. What I've done is I'm trying to get just another bolt head and in better condition. I don't know if I can or not, but for now, this gun, the project, going out and shooting it's off the table. If I do go out, I'll shoot the other one where I believe the head spacing is good. But that's my update on the Gras, and a word of advice, you should check these guns out, or if you don't have the technical skill to do it or the little tools, have somebody do it for you, because that would have been pretty, can't say the gun would blow up, but it might have hurt the gun, or probably would have ruptured the case, something fierce in there, because the headspace is off. So that's my update on the Gras, and also word of advice, when they do tell you, have the gun checked out, check them out pretty good before you shoot them.